welcome to the Joy of Travel. Hi, Joy.
Hi, Tom. You're right, that name is cheesy. No, I'm joking.
I think it fits.
But there's some new news coming up, Tom, about the importance of getting married this year.
Yeah, absolutely. 2011 is the year of weddings, and of course the biggest one, since we got hitched on the way to the airport in Mason, is the royal wedding coming up the end of April.
Oh, and, yes. Good.
There's lots of tour operators that have packages in London. Sky's the limit. The Savoy has a package for...
Are you talking about to actually be at the wedding, or
there's
be in London during the wedding?
There's a procession through town, and the tour companies...
So you're actually in London during
the wedding, and they have a
fun.
procession that goes through the city, and they're private parties. Some of them include going to the Tower of London and a private tour of the Crown Jewels. There's all kinds of options available. So it's going to be an exciting time in London, and if you want to take part in it, they've got something for everyone in all price ranges.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm glad we can get that out to everybody.
Absolutely. And another thing, we do a lot of destination weddings here at Classic Travel, and people get married in Jamaica, all over the Caribbean, and it's really a great way to get married.
Jamaica's actually getting to be the easiest place because there's no waiting period. So you can actually go down and be married, the weekend that you arrive.
Right. And these all-inclusives actually have,
packages,
complete packages from soup to nuts. You can get as sophisticated as you want, but it's a fun way to do it. And the interesting thing, November 11th of 2011 is already booked up. All the brides jumped on board for 11/11/11. I guess it's easier.
What is that? So their husbands won't forget what year
exactly.
they were married, or what was
men
that?
Need as much help as we can get, and that's a pretty
what year
easy
were we
one.
married?
1984, September 27th. I think we could.
Yeah. Well,
we planned that around frequent flyer miles, as I recall.
It was real sentimental for us.
Yeah, exactly. And so anyway, as a backup to that date, because they say it's impossible to get that date, is September 9th of 11. So it's 9/10/11.
Oh.
Sorry, September 10th, 9/10/11. So anyway, another easy one for the husbands to remember.
That's wild. And as you said, Tom, destination weddings are really huge. And another thing that I've been doing a lot of, because now you can do that, is you can get married on cruise ships again. It's a little bit easier to get married in port, for instance, in Puerto Rico or one of the ports, and then come back on board and have your reception. And Faith from Royal Caribbean will talk about that a little bit as well. But here's some interesting cruise news that I thought was kind of fun. We were talking to Ken Hayward from the Grand Hotel,
Sure.
And their big thing this year is that their Titanic highlight weekend, and that's May 13th to the 15th.
Right.
And they found the menu, the 13-course menu from the Titanic when they recovered some of the details. So it's an 11-course dinner, and they're doing that dinner that night. And then when you check in, you're given an identity card of one of the person who sailed,
Right.
and then at the end of it, you find out whether or not you lived. So I don't know. How does that?
Yeah, well, I hope I don't go down with the ship.
But that was May 13th to the 15th. That was in 1912. You can either call your local travel agent, call Classic Travel. You can call 1-800-33-GRAND if you'd like to get in on that.
They always have interesting things going up at the Grand Hotel.
They do. A couple of other things that I think are really important to the Mid-Michigan area is that Delta is starting nonstops now to Tokyo again, but to Haneda Airport. And as you remember, Tom, we've flown into both of those
Yes, we
airports
have.
before, Haneda being a lot more convenient to Tokyo.
Right.
Also, Delta has nonstops to Sydney, which I think is really interesting and good for frequent flyers and good for travel in general. And for you frequent flyers, Delta now has service to Papeete in Tahiti.
Wonderful.
Remember that trip, babe?
Oh gosh, one of the best.
Oh my gosh,
One
I
of the
turned
best.
40 there. Remember
Yes,
that?
gosh, I do vaguely. But no, I mean we're so fortunate, like we've been saying, to have Lansing as an international hub, and with Delta taking over Detroit, there are exciting nonstops all over the world.
Well, and I think that the point that you made, I think when we opened the show originally, is if we can just talk one person into taking that trip, it significantly changes your life. So we're not really here necessarily to sell travel, wink, wink, at Classic Travel, but the reality is that whatever you do has to give you a sense of purpose. And I think if we can really convince someone to take that leap, which is why we're going to have on different people doing interviews,
right,
just to kind of to remind you that it might be a little scary, but it's always worth it.
Embrace it. It's always worthwhile.
Yeah.
You know,
I like the pat downs.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the highlights. But, you know, when we were in Detroit a year or so ago, I'll never forget this. Little girl was going through all dressed up, and she was pulling her little bag behind her, and she goes, "Isn't this awesome?" She was just so excited.
Right.
And that's what, you know, you'll never regret a trip.
Yeah, it's an adventure.
Yeah.
And you know, life is pretty predictable over the age of about 22, right,
That's
guys?
right. Yeah.
So I mean, really, it's just so valuable.
It
So
is. It
get out
is.
there and go. So
Absolutely.
stay tuned. We got a great show coming up.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Looking for a new activity to do in East Lansing? Why not try dance classes? Shelly Thomas, the instructor at Platinum Dance Academy, talks with me about her studio and what it has to offer.
If you're unsure about dancing or you're nervous, I always say just come try it, and the first class is always the hardest, but it gets easier. I would say the number one thing that people say about Platinum is that it's easy. The way that I teach it, it's easy to learn, and we make you feel comfortable, and we're here to have fun.
Platinum Dance Academy is a little tricky to find. It's located behind Central Lighting off of Northwind Drive.
You can sign up individually. We can partner you up with someone in the class, or you can dance with the instructor. But we suggest that you do bring a partner, because when you go home and practice, it always helps reinforce what you learned here in class.
Want to impress your family and friends on your big wedding day? Platinum offers wedding dance classes to help you make that first dance as husband and wife unforgettable.
The first wedding dance classes, a lot of people call up to the studio and wonder, where do we start? How do we go about doing this, or what does it entail? I always suggest there's a couple ways we can do it, and we tailor around each couple. We tailor around their time that they have, how intricate they want their dance to be, or maybe how simple they want their dance to be, what they want their dance to look like, the style of their music is going to determine a lot of that, and their personality. Well, you can choose to have it choreographed or not. If you don't want it choreographed, I always suggest you can get to a group class, learn the basic steps. But if it's choreographed, you know, they know and they can anticipate what step they're going to go into next. We also hold dance parties too. That's also built on top of our program. So they're not just coming here taking dance classes. My number one question was, well, Shelly, now that we've taken these dance classes, what do we do with it? We don't have a wedding coming up. We're not learning for a wedding. Where do we go now? So I developed dance parties at Walnut Hills Country Club that we hold the first weekend of every single month, where I'll do a 45 minutes dance instruction, and then people who are my students, they have a place to go and dance in the community. It adds something to the community, as well as people that haven't danced with me before can come to the dances.
Don't miss the next ballroom dance party at Walnut Hills Country Club on May 6th. It's $10 for members and $12 for non-members. Check out Platinum Dance Academy's website for more information.
Again today, we're fortunate to have Faith Sutkiss, the Business Development Manager for Royal Caribbean. I always have a hard time getting all those words out at once. Who is really making it possible, Royal Caribbean and Faith, for having a travel show in Michigan that we can bring current information to our consumers. So thanks so much for that.
You are so welcome. It is an absolute pleasure to be able to share the joy of cruising, no pun intended, with everybody that's listening and watching today.
Well, it's such a unique travel opportunity now. I mean, it's probably one of the largest growing markets. You can do everything from very small ships. Your Azamara ships are how large?
They're 70,000 gross tons. Still as large as an aircraft carrier, but we can double and quadruple the size of the aircraft carrier depending on the tonnage of our ships.
Yes, so Azamara has how many passengers?
Azamara holds about 550 passengers.
Okay,
each
and
vessel.
what about the Oasis and the Allure?
The Oasis and the Allure, they hold about 5,400 passengers at double occupancy, maybe a little bit more with triples and quad occupancy.
It's almost 5,000 passengers more than your smallest ship.
There
I
you
just
go.
think that's
It's
amazing.
just amazing. I know, it's quite
But you know, one of the things I've observed is that people are using cruises as a destination for family reunions, meetings, incentives. Talk a little bit about that.
It's a great place for everybody to gather together. The value is absolutely unequivocal on a cruise. It includes all of your meals, all of your entertainment, and your accommodations. And then when you have...
And your transportation, as I always say. Did you say that?
I
Did
wanted you to say
Okay.
that.
Well,
because
relating it back to when we were in Europe, I mean, you know, your transportation from port to port is also part of that value.
Exactly. And I don't think folks think about that, unpacking and packing. But for a group, the value is just second to none. With 8 or more staterooms, that constitutes a group. You have the opportunity to take hold of buy one, get it free cruises, group amenity points that allow you to have cocktail parties and champagne in your stateroom and chocolate covered strawberries. There's so many things.
Shipboard credits.
Shipboard credits.
What I do with those group amenity points, and a lot of times I'll encourage people, even families, to book it as a group, because you don't have to deposit those other cabins. You just have to deposit when you're choosing your cabin.
That's right.
And then that gives you the ability to sort of network it to your other friends and family. And hopefully if you get up to that 8, you get one free person.
Right.
And the group amenity point menu, where you can choose everything from shipboard credits to cocktail parties to, like you said, gifts in the cabin.
It just really adds to the experience of bringing friends and family together. And I think even when folks are thinking about traveling as a group, that doesn't mean they have to stay as a group unit the whole time. On a cruise ship, and where the ports of call, you go off and do your own thing. Have dinner together if you want to.
Which is why families like it.
Absolutely.
You know, it brings everybody together for families. And the value, I really want to make this point, Faith, the value for meetings is you include all the meeting space.
Free.
And all of you meeting planners out there know the value of that. You include the space, the AV equipment.
Absolutely.
Is included,
That's where you would pay at your hotel property.
Which is very expensive.
Exactly.
And then it also, because of the dining, gives people an opportunity to, an all-inclusive, people scatter. On a cruise, at least you can come together in the evening on that set dining time. And we kind of do what we call a dine-around, where people can kind of move around. You can
That's
prepay
always a lot of fun.
alcohol as well.
Absolutely.
If you're a group, but only if you're a group.
Exactly. And we also have group shore excursions. So you can customize or do something that's already pre-planned as a group and just have your group on that shore excursion. It's so much fun to travel that way.
Well, and for incentives too, something we haven't even said in any of the shows thus far is you have the most fantastic spas.
We absolutely do. There is something for everybody. We have spa experiences for teenagers all the way up to a couple's experience. So the thing that I think I like about our spa environment is that we have dry sauna and steam all together in side by side, where they have the essential oils that complement each other. So depending on if you're stressful or you have a sinus infection, there's one of those spa treatments.
Yeah. Well, and also for family reunions, just the activities are age-based, and as you said, there's something
They
for
are,
everybody.
yeah.
It's just the perfect experience. So thank you so much. Believe it or not, our 5 minutes are up, so we'll
My
see
goodness.
you on the next show.
I'll look forward to it.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Faye.
You're welcome.
If you haven't donated blood before, or it's been a long time since you have donated, please come out. 97% of us will either need blood or know someone who needs blood in our lifetimes. That's almost all of us. Plus, blood is used for premature infants, patients battling cancer, people with sickle cell anemia, as well as many others. Did you know that less than 5% of the eligible population, meaning those that would be good candidates to donate blood, actually do? That's about 95% of people who could donate that aren't doing it. You never know when you or someone you love will need blood. Blood is perishable and only has a shelf life of 42 days. You can donate every 56 days, 6 times a year. Please come out and donate and give the gift of life.
Morgan Hutson, welcome back to the United States.
Thank you, Joy. It's great to be back.
Yeah, well, we spoke with Andre about his experience of playing overseas, and I wanted to sort of talk to you about your experience. But first of all, both of you for the first time in 10 years are living back in the United States. And what are you doing for work?
I'm now a licensed realtor with Coldwell Banker Hubbell Briarwood in East Lansing, and been wanting to do that for a long time, but we've been living overseas and been anxious to kind of start a career of my own. So, but yeah, years and years of just being Andre's support system over in Europe.
And how about Andre?
Andre's working, he's the owner of Evergreen Car Wash and Detail, and got a couple locations here in the Lansing area, doing mostly detail work, but in a lot more car washes as well now, and moving into the spring. So.
Yes, well, they did a great job on my car. Picked it up here, had it done, and brought it back, and it's really a great service. And so if you want to do business with one of the best basketball players and the second best, or do you think Dave would be
insulted by that?
No, I'm kidding. But in any case, Dave Thomas is also in that business as well. So we heard Andre's feedback on living overseas. You actually, two of your children were actually born while Andre was playing overseas. So tell us about all of your experiences with language barriers, being a support system in very male-dominant countries. In fact, every place that he played is pretty male-dominated.
I would agree. Both my pregnancies were predominantly in Europe, and I actually felt very supported. I probably never felt more like a woman than I did in Europe. They're very, they just really cater to you. Everyone holds the doors open. They ask if you need help. People would help me carry my groceries. So I actually felt it a little easier to be pregnant over there than here in the States.
That's an interesting observation.
Yeah, so that part was really nice. But then it carries beyond that. Then they always kind of expect you to be with the children and stay there as well. So
and be there when your husband gets home.
Exactly.
Isn't that kind of the Italian way?
And cook home-cooked meals and very fresh cooking.
But you like to cook.
I love it. I love it. I don't love it anymore now that I'm busy working. But before that, I loved the whole process of grocery shopping the same day and picking the produce at the open-air produce markets. And
how about communication? Were you always
a lot of pointing and sign language? And in Italy, I actually learned a bit of the language, so I was able to get by. And anyone who can speak a little English wants to practice with you. So if you can find someone.
So Eat, Love, and Praise Not a Lie, then, that book, huh?
Yeah, no, that's not a lie, except in Naples.
yeah, Naples is a unique place.
Yes, and the Romans say Naples is a separate country, so.
Yeah, I think they feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
The Nepalese do anyway. So tell us about your experience with supporting Andre being in sports and then having your children there.
Oh gosh, any specific country to start with?
I was thinking, some of my favorite stories are about Turkey. And what it was like having Cameron there.
Well, they love children there, and so you couldn't go anywhere without strangers trying to pick your child up out of the stroller. And this happened to me very quickly after I got to Istanbul. This older woman was trying to pick him up out of the stroller while I was trying to purchase something. And so I'm looking, and he's strapped in, thank God, but she's trying to pull him out even though he's strapped in. And I couldn't tell her, stop, what are you doing? And she couldn't figure out why he wouldn't come out of the stroller. So, I mean, they just want to hold your children constantly.
And it's not, it's not uncommon to have people just pick up other people's children without being asked. And
well, they said that American children are chubbier and cuter. I was told several times that Turkish children don't have as much chub on them, so they just liked our kids better, I guess.
But tell the story about, and we've got a great photograph for that, about when you're having your hair done there.
Yes, my girlfriend said, go to the salon, they'll pass your kid around, you can get your hair done. So I took Cameron there, and they had people blowing my hair out, so I couldn't see what was going on as they passed Cameron around. And probably 5 minutes later, I'm looking for him, and they had him in the corner of the salon, flat ironing out his hair, and he had a curly fro of hair, and it was probably 8 inches long when it was wet. And
that is a hilarious picture.
He looks like a troll doll. Yeah.
What was your favorite place?
Oh gosh, it would either be Istanbul or Rome, but Rome, I have to say, is probably my favorite city. Yeah.
Other than getting mail, right? What are the ups and the downs of living in Rome?
There's so much to
Rome.
see. There's just so much to see. You can just walk around Rome and just nowhere, not even the touristy spots, and just have a great cappuccino. And I love gelato. And there's just culture all around and beautiful parks. And sometimes people are rude, but it's part of the culture. I mean, you'll just stumble across an open air market and the produce is so good and the language is so beautiful. So I mean, there were a lot of downsides to Rome too, but all in all, everyone should go to Rome. It's
And
a beautiful place.
did you when Andre would play? Do they give you a place to live? Do they give you transportation? I mean,
Yes,
as
we
well
have-
as a
they
wage,
do.
or that's part of the contract?
It's part of the
Yeah,
contract.
that's a nice gig if you
Yeah.
can get it, especially for a world traveler. Huh?
Definitely.
And Cameron actually lived and went to preschool
He
in
did.
Italy, didn't he?
He did. He learned
And
Italian right with English. yeah.
do you speak Italian to him anymore? or-
No, and we probably should, but I think we'll focus on Spanish right now since it's a little bit more common here in the States, and I don't see us going back.
And so Andre wasn't here when Cameron was born, right?
He came in the very next day. It was as soon as he could get away.
Yeah,
so.
well, and I mean, with pregnancy, it kind of goes that way. But with Sydney, he was here.
He was here, he witnessed Sydney's birth, and then had to fly back like 5 days later.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Just such great stories. Thank you so much for sharing
Thank
it
you
all
for
with us. And
having
what would
me.
you say about your life lesson over the last 10 years?
It's such a good experience to live in other people's shoes, and we're so spoiled as Americans. We have every modern convenience, and it's just not like that in the rest of the world. And it's a very humbling experience to see the world and see how other people live. It changes you.
Yeah, it really does change you.
does.
And that was the purpose of our show, is to really encourage people to get out there. I remember how nervous everyone was about your mom going to Istanbul. And I kept saying, Istanbul's one of my favorite cities.
It's
Isn't
great.
it? Oh, it's hard
It's
to even
beautiful
explain
and
it. And
it's great.
remember Santorini. And,
Oh, yeah,
I mean, all
absolutely.
the great things that you've done. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for
and,
having me anytime.
Okay, and we'll look forward to having you and the family a little bit later. So thanks
Okay.
again.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay.
Okay, the blood drive is in a few days. Here's what you need to do to prepare your body for the best donation experience possible.
Start stocking up on iron-rich foods like green leafy vegetables, lean meats, nuts, and berries. Here's a list of iron-rich foods that you can eat. Also, avoid fatty foods a day or so before you plan to donate. Be sure to get a good night's sleep before donation day. Drink plenty of non-caffeinated beverages like juice or water before and after you donate. Be sure you eat breakfast, and don't forget about lunch if you plan to donate in the afternoon.
Thanks for your help with the life-saving mission of the American Red Cross.
You are a hero.
So you're getting ready for that next cruise. Guess what? I highly recommend that you pack your passport. If you don't have a passport, I strongly recommend you visit your travel professional and have them help you get a passport. You know, sometimes when you're taking a cruise, that cruise may not require a passport, but guess what? Airline requirements are different than cruise requirements. So let's say you're in Cozumel. Somebody gets hurt and you need to fly home, and you don't have a passport. Well, guess what? The airlines require that you have a passport on that particular departing city. So my recommendation is get a passport. It's well worth it. They're good for 10 years, and it's a great form of identification. Have a great cruise.